Well, good morning to all of you, and thank you for coming to Washington. I used to describe Washington as a work-free drug place, but because the mayor here was on his way to jail back in the early 90s because he was busy buying and selling cocaine. Then I used to describe it to audiences as welcome to Disneyland on the Potomac, except Disney was then going to actually build a park out on the Potomac over in Northern Virginia. And so now it's just easier to say welcome to town. As was mentioned, I am a former ALEC member. I can remember my first ALEC meeting back in the mid-'80s. And over the year, ALEC has been, I think, a wonderful organization. Not only does it bring like-minded legislators together, but the private sector engagement and partnership in ALEC is really what I think makes it the organization that it is. And so for all of you that are legislators that are here, thanks for being part of ALEC. But more importantly, to the private sector representatives that are here who help make this organization what it is, thank you for your contributions, not only in resources, but your ideas from the real world, as I like to describe it, that I really think are very helpful to many legislators. Now, listen, most of you don't know much about me other than you heard about my political career, but I grew up in Cincinnati. I have 11 brothers and sisters, and my dad owned a bar. Now, the reason I mention this to you is that I'm kind of a regular guy with a big job. But all the lessons I learned growing up are the lessons I need to do my job today. You know, you grew up in a big family, you have to learn to get along with each other. You have to learn to get things done together, get things done as a family. You grew up around a bar. I've mopped floors, I did the dishes, waited tables, tended bar. You learn to deal with every jackass that walks in the door. Trust me, all the skills I learned growing up are the skills I need to do my job today. But I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever get involved in the political arena. But I got involved because, I'm trying to run a business. I'm watching my customers, my suppliers, back in the late 70s and early 80s, and you just see government choking the goose that was laying the golden egg. I wouldn't be here had I not had the chance to start a business, grow a business, and succeed in the real world. And in America, we have abundant opportunities, more so than any other country in the world. Only in America can you grow up and be anything you want to be or do anything that you choose to do. I've been around the world, 50, 60 countries probably over the years. There is no country like America that provides opportunity for its citizens. And so when I kept looking at government growing, more regulations and higher taxes, I thought it takes somebody from the real world to take a more active role in this thing called government. Because expecting government to change or expecting politicians to change would be like expecting the spots on a dog to change. It's not going to happen. And what we need here in Washington today are more members with real-world experience. And you'll hear more about that in a moment. Earlier this year, I put together a state solutions project with Mike Rogers, my colleague from Michigan, and Devin Nunes, another one of my colleagues from California, to work more closely with state legislators and governors as we develop solutions to the problems that we're facing. I think all of you know very few of the solutions to the issues that we face in America are going to come out of the United States Congress, or for that matter, come out of Washington at all. And so I do think that it's important that we continue to work together. Listen, the road ahead, I think, is going to be a difficult one. I'm going to be very frank with you. When you look at what you've dealt with over the last year in terms of your budget and what you've had to do in terms of cutting spending, let me tell you, you're just beginning. I met with a group of governors back in September who had just come from a meeting with a group of leading economists. And the question was asked, when would states get back to 2007 revenue levels, your peak levels? And the answer that came back from the economists, the most optimistic one, was 2014. But most of these economists made it clear that it was going to be 2015 or 2016 before states got back to the revenue levels that we saw in 2007. And so it's going to be, I think, a long stretch ahead. You know, we supplied an awful lot of money out of Washington in the stimulus bill to help states weather through this past year. I've got my doubts about whether that's going to happen again. Although you realize that we've got a $12 trillion budget, or a $12 trillion debt. Our budget deficit this year was $1.5 trillion. And they're still talking about spending more money here in Washington. But if I were you, I'd be thinking about how I was going to cut spending. And I know this is going to be difficult, because when you've got Medicaid spending where it is, and you've got education that nobody wants to touch, there isn't a whole lot left in terms of where you find the dollars that you're going to need to find to balance your budgets. But the bottom line here is that don't assume that Washington is going to fix the problems that we have in the states. And when you begin to look at the choices that we're dealing with here in Washington, the news isn't going to get much better. We are dealing with a set of liberal proposals that have all year long that are hamstringing American employers. You know, most Americans are asking, where are the jobs? This morning, the unemployment numbers came out, and only 11,000 people net lost their jobs last month, and the unemployment rate fell from 10.2% to 10%. That's a bit of good news. But when you begin to look at the policies that are being proposed this year, and you see all of the spending and all of the debt, you see a cap and trade proposal on energy. It's a national energy tax. They can't pass a national energy tax, so they came up with this crazy cap and trade proposal that will hamstring our economy and push 2.5 million jobs each and every year for the next 10 years out of America. And employers were wondering, boy, where is this going to go? And if that wasn't enough, we've got this proposal for a big government takeover of our healthcare system. And if you look at this bill, it's not just about the government option. It's about the other 110 mandates, bureaucracies, commissions that are created in this monstrosity to prepare our government for a single-payer national healthcare system, which is what the left really wants to do. And so you look at this bill, there's an individual mandate in it, there's an employer mandate in it, and so employers are going, whoa, wait a minute, you're going to raise the cost for me to hire someone. You're going to penalize me because I don't offer the kind of health insurance to my employees that the government thinks I should offer to my employees. And if all that isn't bad enough, what do they want to do? They want to raise taxes on upper income individuals, half of whom are small businesses that operate as subchapter S corporations. And so employers are looking at all of this, and they've made a real clear decision. We're gonna keep our business alive. We're gonna put the money in the bank. We're gonna hunker down and hope that most of this stuff doesn't happen. And so I don't expect that, given the policies that are coming out of this administration, that we're going to see employment grow in any measurable way. The stimulus bill, when it was passed, was about creating jobs. And it turned out to be a bill that did nothing more than grow the size of government. The president said that unemployment wouldn't exceed 8% if we passed this bill. And today it's at 10%. The president said this stimulus bill would create jobs immediately. And yet some 3 million Americans have lost their jobs since this bill has become law. And so what we need to be doing is that we need to be putting incentives in place that will put money back in the hands of employers and American families, because at the end of the day, it's the ingenuity of the American people, the creativity of the American people that will unleash our economy once again.